Okay, let's just cut right to the chase for this explainer. We are tackling literally the most pressing question of our era right now. Is artificial intelligence coming for your career? But before we all start panicking about being replaced by robots, let's take a breath and look at what the data actually tells us.
300 million. Wow. Just let that number sink in for a second. That is the Goldman Sachs estimate of full-time jobs globally that are exposed to AI automation. So, yeah, that establishes the immediate stakes we're facing today. And honestly, when you hear a number that massive, it's completely understandable why everyone is so anxious. But, and this is an absolutely crucial distinction, being exposed to automation is very, very different from being replaced by machines.
So, to unpack all of this without the doom and gloom, here is our roadmap. We're covering 1. The AI employment anxiety. 2. Lessons from automation history. 3. Understanding Moravec's paradox. 4. The actual jobs at risk. And 5. The human advantage.
Starting right off with Section 1, the AI employment anxiety, and separating the actual facts from the science fiction. Look, if we're going to prepare for the future, we have to focus our attention on documented, observable risks. We're talking about real things like labor displacement or bias amplification. We can't get distracted by highly speculative sci-fi scenarios. Those observable risks are immediate, they are measurable, like those 300 million jobs transforming. The speculative stuff, a superintelligence suddenly misaligning and turning against humanity, it makes for a fantastic Hollywood blockbuster, but right now it has zero empirical validation. To actually prepare for the future of work, we've got to stay grounded in the reality of the modern workplace, not the plot of a Terminator sequel. Moving right along to Section 2, Lessons from Automation History. Because, spoiler alert, we have absolutely panicked about this before. Let's rewind for a second to the year 1900. Back then, a massive 41% of the United States labor force was employed in farming. Just think about the scale of that for a minute. Almost half of all working adults were out there doing intense manual agricultural labor. Fast forward exactly a century to the year 2000. Automated machinery had completely taken over, and it drove that number down to just 2%. 2. Yet, overall employment grew right alongside the population. Why? Because the jobs didn't vanish, they just transformed. The introduction of tractors didn't create this permanent massive class of unemployed farmers. Instead, it radically increased productivity, it tanked the cost of food, and honestly, most importantly, it freed up all this human capital to go out and invent entirely new industries that our ancestors literally couldn't have even imagined.
And this pattern is so consistent. Take Richard Arkwright. When he introduced cotton spinning machinery way back in 1760, it crushed costs and caused demand to skyrocket so profoundly that employment in that specific sector actually grew by over 3,900%. That is wild. The core economic lesson we keep seeing over and over is that automation consistently raises the value of the tasks that human workers uniquely supply.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 3, Understanding Moravec's Paradox, or Why Supercomputers Can't Fold Your Laundry.
Okay, so Moravec's paradox reveals this amazing, ironic twist. Basically, what is incredibly hard for us is insanely easy for AI, and what is totally effortless for a human toddler is completely baffling to a billion-dollar supercomputer. See, for decades, computer scientists just assumed that because logic and algebra are hard for humans to learn, they must represent the absolute pinnacle of intelligence. They figured the easy stuff, like recognizing a friend's face or just walking across a messy bedroom, would be super simple to teach a machine. Well, it turns out they had it completely backwards. So, AI easily handles recently evolved skills like algebra, but profoundly struggles with the skills that humans spent millions of years evolving. Think about it. We find calculus really hard because our brains only learned how to do it super recently in the grand scheme of human history. AI solves it instantly. But navigating a really tense social dynamic in a meeting, or trying to fix a plumbing issue in a cramped, weirdly shaped space under a sink, those tasks demand complex contextual judgment and physical adaptability. Those things are incredibly intuitive to us, but practically impossible for algorithms right now.
All right, Section 4, Jobs at Risk. Let's actually map out this automation threat in the real world.
So roles that are built primarily around routine, codifiable tasks, those face the absolute highest risk, while professions that rely on unpredictable environments and human connection remain incredibly resilient. Take data entry or payroll. Those are highly structured environments. AI loves that stuff. But you still absolutely need humans to handle the weird exceptions and do quality assurance. In the middle tier, you've got copywriters and developers. They're going to increasingly use AI to write first drafts and crank out basic code, but true human storytelling and complex system architecture are still vital. And those low-risk roles, nurses, electricians, teachers, they demand hands-on adaptability, complex contextual judgment, and really deep emotional intelligence.
Ultimately, get this. The World Economic Forum projects that AI is going to displace 92 million jobs globally by 2030, but it is also going to create 170 million entirely new ones. That is a massive net gain of nearly 80 million jobs. So yes, workflows are definitely going to transform. All those boring, repetitive tasks, we're handing those off to our digital assistants. But the aggregate demand for human labor, specifically uniquely human labor, is actually going to grow.
And that leads us to our final section, Section 5, the human advantage and how we actively cultivate those uniquely human capabilities.
To really thrive as AI automates all these technical tasks, experts from the Harvard Business Review recommend actively cultivating 3 irreplaceable human superpowers: curiosity, humility, and emotional intelligence. See, because AI systems are trained entirely on patterns from the past, they cannot generate genuine rule-breaking originality. That takes human curiosity, literally stepping away from the screen and experiencing the messy real world. Humility is what allows you to adapt and pivot when the whole landscape shifts under your feet. And emotional intelligence, that is your ultimate moat. An AI can mimic an empathetic tone, sure, but it doesn't actually feel anything, and humans instinctively know the difference. In high-stakes moments of trust, negotiation, or genuine care, human presence is completely indispensable.
The ultimate strategic imperative moving forward isn't us competing against the machines. It's about mastering the human-AI partnership. Honestly, the professionals who are going to struggle the most in this coming decade aren't necessarily the ones doing human-centric work. It's the ones who refuse to develop AI literacy alongside their human capabilities. The future absolutely belongs to those who view AI not as a replacement, but as an incredibly powerful collaborative tool.
So, I want to leave you with this final thought to really chew on. As these tools increasingly become our everyday digital assistants, how are you planning to cultivate and leverage your own irreplaceable humanity? Because the jobs of the future are going to require your empathy, your creativity, and your judgment way more than ever before. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and here's to facing the future with some well-deserved optimism.